You know, viewer, I'm sure that a lot of fans of God of War were real excited to hear that a prequel game was coming out to help explain how Kratos fell into his insane god-killing rage storm throughout the main trilogy, but then were disappointed when the slaughter of Kratos' family, his ultimate motivator, wasn't mentioned until the game's ending. And even then, it doesn't actually tell the audience in of itself why that happened. It only gives the vague bullshit reason of his relentless ambition. So what? Was Kratos so intent on conquering the world and gaining honor that he was chopping his way through his own kingdom to do it? Or was he so ambitious that he had to murder his family so that he could find the objectively perfect wife, which is literally impossible? Yes, this sounds ridiculous, but the game just left it out in the open and failed the one thing that a prequel needed to actually work. In the meantime, we're dropped into the surprisingly simple story built entirely by multiple mythologies. Kratos has been captured by the Furies for trying to break his oath with Ares, and now we must go on yet another rage storm since killing all of the Furies is the only way to break his deal. The deal set in motion by Ares and Alecto, who conceived him in the first place as the linchpin for their plan to destroy Olympus, because, relentless ambition, I guess? At this point in the series, the only justification Kratos needs to kill an immortal is to be told that there is an immortal on the horizon, but this works fine too. In this game, we end up starting on a Jaeon, a 100-handed man who was punished by the Furies to become the Oathbreaker's prison as being the first Oathbreaker, and Kratos escapes it in the first 5 seconds because of Fury laziness to actually check their traps. Then begins breaking his ass out of prison, all the while being dogged by Majera, the aggressive Fury, and her parasites, making things worse. After we cut out the giant man's eyeball, we flash back to 3 weeks earlier, and I want to address this now. Having these flashback sections in the middle of the game makes no sense, because throughout them, Kratos is upgrading his abilities and getting new ones that just transfer into the future because of magic bullshit, and it fucks up the story because it takes away the stakes, such as when the Furies show up in the past, so we know for a fact that fighting them is pointless. This game was a prequel, so it should have started at its earliest point instead of shoehorning in his prison escape in the middle of his Oracle quest with all the grace of stuffing a bass trombone into a duffel bag. Throughout the game, we do deal with the usual mythological enemies, but not in the amount that you'd expect, since the game runs on a total arena mentality where you run somewhere, deal with a wave of baddies, then do some Tomb Raider shit climbing. It feels like the combat and platforming are separated by a 30-foot fence made of lava, and that's nothing to say of how Santa Monica screwed the combat through innovation. 85% of the game is dull as painted dirt, since you can flail around like a complete spaz and get through all the combat no sweat, with the pseudo mini-bosses livening things up a little bit, but when you get to the Lantern of Delphos is when you start seeing the stretch marks. Santa Monica thought it was a brilliant idea to take away the stunlock-filled long-chain combat system of other games and transplant it with a Dark Souls model with the focus more on getting the timing down and emphasizing crowd control and blocking, spoken like the nerd I am. The Eyes of Apollo mob is pretty difficult, but perfectly doable when you acclimatize to getting Zelda bladed in the head 50 goddamn cunting times. It's a bit of a stumbling block, but not a deal breaker as you get the ancient laser-based technology working again. This is not how history worked, guys. There was never a colossal Apollo statue built and broken by harpy monsters. But then you get to the Trial of Archimedes. The Trial of Archimedes is on the level of Blops DS's retaking of the beach, and I don't say that lightly, in ramping up the difficulty to the level of a 20-foot hurdle just slammed into the middle of the run. When you are tasked with dealing with 3 waves of the pseudo-boss enemies again, with no water break in the middle, is when controllers start flying towards walls. It is excruciating to the point that Santa Monica actually issued a patch to bring it down a peg, which apparently I didn't get personally for some odd reason. Surprisingly, it's not the worst part of the game's experience that I saw. The abhorrent part is when I ran into a game-breaking glitch that had absolutely no right to even exist. I hit the apparently well-known glitch that activated when you failed at killing the gargoyle that you fell into the Lantern of Delphos with. The camera doesn't move, the HUD isn't available, and even killing the gargoyle doesn't reset the game on its tracks. Hell, when the gargoyle's off screen, its AI completely shuts down, and then you end up stuck in the void of video game purgatory, unable to progress until you replay chapter 26 and kill it in one go. The gargoyle isn't piss easy, so how did you not pick that up on testing? Otherwise, the game is fairly decent, but with God of War not having the same track run as Call of Duty, it's gonna end up being the worst of the lot just due to the lack of spaces. And also the game-breaking glitches, difficulty mismanaging, and odd priorities to where Santa Monica hired a 30-man environmental design team like Halo 4, and to be fair, their output is again postcard perfect, but you sacrifice the gameplay on that table when you prioritize the environment show-off over being able to play the actual game, and made Kratos literally the smallest thing on screen, which is the most moronic move you could have done in any genre, but particularly bad in a hack and slash. Sure, it's got its problems, but I'd suggest picking it up anyway if you didn't get your fill from replaying the God of War trilogy again of god killing, and just want to see Kratos fucking up Greece on a new journey of vengeance and butchery. Next time we'll be looking at Chains of Olympus, another prequel to God of War, which makes Ascension an even stupider project because prequels predating other prequels doesn't make any logic, and with that final kick to Ascension's crotch, I will leave you with the scoreboard and a Rudy Tooty deadly walking victory for gamers. You like that, viewer? You like it?